the initial fire on someone's property I tested.
15 minutes away from us.
Just came
Like in
in.
New Springfield. Yeah.
Wow. Look at the flume of smoke.
This lady here, that's Marilyn Leisner, the last mayor of Times Beach, Missouri, a small resort town along the Merrimack River just outside of St. Louis that the government bought out after some jackass contracted with the chemical companies to dispose of their waste. He mixed that chemical waste with oil and sprayed the roads of Times Beach with its mixture. Scott Smith, the guy in the blue shirt, has been to over 60 chemical contamination disasters, and he's brought Marilyn here to talk with some of the people of East Palestine, Ohio, the site of one of the nastiest, most toxic chemical spills in history. One of its citizen whistleblowers gave me a 1,400-page EPA memo with a list of chemicals that were on board the train when it derailed, that the EPA is now removed from their website. According to their own documents, the EPA knew about multiple sites of chemical contamination for almost 10 years prior to warning the residents of Times Beach. If there's anyone who knows the EPA playbook, it's the guy in the blue shirt.
At Times Beach, the federal and state officials told us when the test results came back that they were under 100 parts per billion. We got their test results, and their test results were 1,200 parts per billion. We gave those test results to an AP reporter, and they published them. We asked them why they lied to us. They said they wanted to prevent people from being damaged economically, physically, psychologically, and socially, and they didn't want riots.
But they already did that to us.
Yeah.
That's what they've done.
They used our lab after telling us there was no lab that could do it. We had already collected some money to test ourselves, and so they used that lab. Our test results came back on December the 13th, saying the dioxin was there, but we didn't have the money to say what the level was. Their test results came back on December 23rd. On December 23rd, they revealed those results at a Christmas party the residents that were in town had at our community center. And they again said, if you're in town, leave. Don't take nothing with you. If you're out of town, don't come back.
The chemical company that contracted with Norfolk Southern to haul their vinyl chloride showed up on February 4th to monitor the situation. They found and told them that the cars that Norfolk Southern and its contractors were wanting to burn to prevent possible explosion were already cooling and posed no further threat. The EPA would like you to believe that a lone local fire chief made the call to burn the derailed cars. They have repeatedly claimed that they were not involved in that decision. But why? Why wouldn't they be the lead in such a hazardous situation? Why would they rely on the very ones who stood to profit or minimize their liability? I asked the fire chief about this narrative, that he alone made this decision.
When I talked to the EPA, and I kind of poked them a little bit, I'm like, hey, who said light this up, like light it on fire? And they told me that you
that
guys
I did, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Is that true or not?
No.
I don't think it was.
So that decision was discussed by the entire Unified Command, everybody in the room, all the stakeholders.
Now, who is Unified Command?
The US EPA, the Ohio EPA, the railroad, Governor DeWine, myself,
Okay.
the EMA, all of the stakeholders and that had
The railroad.
All the people that showed up.
everybody. Ultimately, I have to give the final yes or no because I'm the incident commander, but it was agreed upon by everybody.
So everybody said yes, and the EPA included. Okay.
So what happens when you light things on fire, especially chemicals? I asked a toxicologist specifically about the chemicals found in the train the night that it derailed.
In the fire in East Palestine, Ohio, it's incomplete combustion, which means it doesn't all get consumed, and that's what you see in the large plumes that are going up into the air, are the literally thousands of pounds of material that are not burned, but they're going up as particulate that can be inhaled and cause health problems. Vinyl chloride is a single chemical, and there were like 220,000 pounds of it in each of 5 cars, so close to 1 million pounds. And when it's burned, when it's incompletely burned, it changes to at least 7 other chemicals. And these chemicals range from hydrochloric acid is one example, dioxins is another. But these chemicals have very serious short-term and long-term health effects. The hydrochloric acid is corrosive. It can burn your eyes and skin and lungs as you inhale it. There are several of the products from vinyl chloride that can cause cancer, long-term health effects in the liver, kidney, brain, etc.
Do you mind if I do a little filming here, brother?
Yeah, I don't mind.
You okay? Good. Like, yeah, I don't mind.
I don't like seeing myself on the camera.
Oh, don't worry about it. You'll just be on a big screen soon. Don't worry about it.
Oh, no, say that. Never had a problem. All of a sudden, I didn't even know about it until my wife saw it. She just happened to walk in the bathroom one day and she said, "What is this on your back?" I have no clue. I can't see it. Well, I went to the doctor and he looked at it and he said, "We got to burn that out. We got to cut that out." And he's going to cut it out and send it away and find out if it's, malignant or not.
But you've never had it before?
Never. No, never. Put the dog up so he doesn't eat up these nice people.
Joe and his wife have been ill, and we know things are in their water. I took their soil samples the other day. So instead of taking a biopsy of their lungs or anybody else feeling ill, the next best thing is a furnace filter to see what they've been exposed to so they can go to a toxicologist, medical doctor. And this is a furnace filter, and there's been no one else doing any furnace filter testing.
Right after the plume of chemicals settled in and blanketed our property, which was the same evening that they blew up those tankers, okay? We were driving home and we saw the plume. We saw like a fog all the way around our house, and we couldn't even roll the windows down in our car to breathe because it would choke us half to death. And so I told her, we can't stay here. We got to leave. And so we left, and we stayed away for about 2 weeks, and eventually another 4 weeks. When we came back, we said, we can't really trust the water here. We need to have the water tested. So we talked to Norfolk Southern. They said, go get your test done, and then we'll pay for it if you go get the test done. We did, but the testing site was not capable of doing a really good test of any possible metabolite that's a result of that controlled burn or that detonation of their chemicals. So Norfolk Southern said, we've got people that we can have test your water. I said, okay, I'm good with that. So they sent somebody over to test it. They tested it once. It showed vinyl chloride in the water. They came back again. They tested it a second time. Still there was vinyl chloride in it. We were both having a problem. It's not safe. We shouldn't be drinking it, which we weren't going to drink it anyway, but we probably shouldn't be washing our dishes or clothes or bathing in it. And they said, oh, it's okay. It's fine. You're fine. And so then they sent somebody from Michigan down to talk to us, and literally sent somebody all the way from Michigan just to talk to my wife and I. And she looked at all our results. She had them in front of her. She said, Mrs. Sheely, she said, I looked at your water. It's not that bad. I wouldn't drink it. I said, well, let me ask you a question. If we were your parents, would you tell your parents, if we were your parents, would you tell them it's okay to drink this water, to bathe in it, to cook with it, to do everything else? And she looked at me with a troubled look on her face and she said, buy bottled water. Do not drink the water.
And you're going to see me swabbing this twice. One swab is for SVOCs, and the other swab will be sent to the lab for dioxins. This is an official protocol to sample what's on the surface. Needless to say, the EPA and Mark Durner are on tape saying, all my data is useless on this, and they're pushing back very hard. And we know why. I am looking forward to the EPA because they're tracking people around town. They're looking at Facebook, and the railroad is hiring people to do it. And the EPA is going around, well, you smoked cigarettes in college. Well, you drank too much. It's your lifestyle. So I want to see them come after a pastor and blame your lifestyle. Good luck to them. Good luck to them.
So it might sound like the guy in the blue shirt has been to a few too many chemical disaster areas, that the fumes may have gotten to him.
He's been on the ground at every single major contamination, spill, explosion, accident.
Port of Stockton, California, Laurel, Montana, Santa Monica, California, and Eden, North Carolina, Aruba, Guanas Canal, Charleston, West Virginia.
Just as he's been a fount of knowledge for Select, he's a fount of knowledge for a senator.
The EPA and the railroad following people, monitoring their social media. The Government Accountability Project obtained emails from the EPA that make it not seem so crazy. Why are over 52 EPA agents being copied on the whereabouts of Scott Smith's location and his actions. Why is a woman named Barbara McCree, who, besides having an EPA.gov email address, is basically a ghost, asking for Scott's personal address and information? Why the obsession from a major government agency on a civilian collecting soil and air samples for residents who are being denied help? Why do they need to know his address? Why do they need to know where he's at all times when he's in East Palestine? Why are they following him?
Asking you if you're taking samples.
Have you taken samples?
I can't answer any of your questions.
You can't. Well, then why should I answer any of your questions?
We need to know who's coming and going on the site.
But this is private property.
I'm here.
You're standing on private property right now.
Everything that I've read in the newspapers and everything I've seen with the health effects of these residents, this is not something that was nothing to see here type event. Scott came in and he countered that narrative that the EPA and Norfolk Southern has been putting forth for so long, that the chemicals of concern are all within acceptable limits, that it's safe to live in the environment, it's safe to go back home. And this is not what residents are experiencing, and this is not what Scott has found out through his results.
Scott is doing testing that people can't get otherwise, and the EPA can judge his results and they can judge his methods, and it's the only way you get to any kind of transparency. Whether people agree with what he's doing or not, you need to have things to move the needle on what matters to the people in East Palestine.
I had Michael Regan here in my home, the head of the US EPA. After I brought that to light, that the EPA agent wasn't honest about the testing, well, he acknowledged the chemical gas smell recorded.
Okay.
Sherrod Brown and Bill Johnson, the senator and congressman, they acknowledged the chemical gas smell in my home too.
Did they test the filter the way Scott did?
No.
Nobody
I
did.
didn't even know you could test until Scott did.
Some said like fingernail polish remover with sweet added to it. To me, it was just a straight up burning. And when I say burning, when I came back into town to work, I would lose my voice an hour and a half into my shift. My balance would be off. I would stumble like I was drunk.
And tell us again where you were working. How close were you to the derailment?
I worked at the Circle K.
Which is where?
Right on the main street of town. I was in between the railroad tracks and the creek.
Please pass on. We are here in good faith. I'm on the record in the media inviting the EPA and the railroad, specifically Will Burgess, that signed the lease, to join me anytime for the benefit of the community to take samples. We would love anybody to join us.
The bigger picture is we want to expose what we've seen as a pattern of regulatory capture of the EPA in these disasters, of the responsible party, and the responsible party hiring its own contractors to do its work and then always coming up with non-detects or detections within, safe limits. It's just not an accurate reading based on the health symptoms and what Scott Smith is finding in his own testing.
All the time we see this. Track removal's begun. Lovely, isn't it? They had these aerators placed in front of the tunnel, like right in front of my neighbor's house. I thought these aerators were doing good. I didn't realize that they were gassing everyone more.
How so?
They were lifting the chemical up from the creek and putting it into the air. So it was filling up my neighborhood with that smell. And after that, an EPA officer had told me, EPA agent, I guess, had explained to me that those aerators should have never been placed in a residential neighborhood.
This woman is still displaced. Actually, her kids has to stay with her mother because she's staying in a hotel. This is what it came to, is we are dying. We need our kids saved. You'll see on the right hand side, you'll see the million gallon tanks of contaminated water they have stored. And that's right here. This is all ground zero. That's all contaminated water.
I feel so sorry for these people. I can't stand to see these kids on the street. It's horrible.
It looks normal.
This community was awesome. That's why I moved here. I got 47 family members in the 1 mile zone that they're considering 1 mile zone. I live next to my best friend since we've been in diapers. It was awesome. I love this place.
But like what I'm saying is I don't understand like what you're worried about because everything's green. It looks beautiful. What's the problem?
Okay. I have a problem with my soil samples coming back positive for formaldehyde. I had my surface testing done. There was a chemical that came back, hexochlorine benzene, that was banned in 1966. Everything that what is different from here and different than Maui, in my opinion, is that you could see the permanent damage. You could see the deaths. What are we going to have in 5, 10, 15 years that is beautiful here? Who wouldn't want to live here? Quiet. Everybody gets a lot,
But like like I said, it's beautiful. What made you even want to think about getting your soil sampled?
Because I knew something was wrong when my fiance was getting sores and blisters all over her bodies. When we had burning eyes, headaches, sore throats. I found 2 nodules on my tongue, or on my lungs. My liver enzymes went sky high. I tested positive first time for the metabolite for vinyl chloride. Then I started going to the creeks helping to film. And so I went and got another blood and urine test. It came back with the metabolite for vinyl chloride and benzene. The test results that came back from our creek so happens to have benzene in it. Everything that they're saying is not true.
What does it mean to have this guy here doing this for you?
Listen, this man is, I'm going to call him a savior for this community because we cannot get any testing done besides this man. Universities has came in and did a little bit of testing, but we still ain't even got the results back from the universities yet.
You're getting his back, but you're not getting the universities?
Yes, we're not getting the universities back.
This is a hexane solvent, so anything that's on there will be coming right off. I'm even doing the back of it, even though I don't have to.
Well, the thing is the EPA's not testing.
And the thing is they accuse me of doing everything that they probably are doing. And you heard today a soil sample from 4 feet down.
The EPA refuses to test our soil or our air in our homes. Refuses. We are not, and he'll say it right to your face, we are not testing your soil or your air.
I always hand the resident this so everything is documented, and you'll see me filling out a chain of custody tomorrow where I reference the timestamp and the geotag and where I am. And right now I'm taking a soil sample. See how I'm taking it? Is the dust particles settled? They're not going to go much below a quarter, half inch. So if I want to game the system and get a false non-detect, I'm going to core 4 feet down.
So you send this to the same place that the EPA gets theirs, or it's an EPA?
Well, yeah, Eurofins, the EPA approved lab, and the EPA, that's a great question. When I've repeatedly invited the EPA publicly to test side by side and media asked them questions, the EPA said there's no need to test side by side with Scott Smith because he's using an EPA certified lab and we believe the lab results. What they question is my methodology, meaning why I'm sampling, where I'm sampling. And as you can see from the press release with the Government Accountability Project last week, I said, my work plan is simple. EPA refuses to test for a resident. Resident is reporting health symptoms. They call me, I test their property. That's my work plan. That's my methodology.
I can smell that.
You can smell the soil.
I can smell the soil.
Yeah. can smell it too.
Wow.
This sounds like a really weird question, but do you get a weird taste in your mouth when you get over here?
Oh, it's a metally metallic.
Yeah, I'm tasting it. I'm tasting that, and I'm thinking I'm getting paranoid, but...
The back of my nose, my throat is on fire right now.
Now, why do you test for SVOCs versus VOCs for these?
Well, VOCs are the volatile organic compounds,
Uh-huh.
and those dissipate. They're already going to be in the air. So the key is the surfaces.
Okay.
It's like the air you breathe, going into the atmosphere. And at a murder scene, I'm basically testing for the blood that is sticking to the wall. This is like a murder scene.
Tell me about the chemical pneumonia that you were experiencing your nosebleeds recently.
Yeah, I've been in the creek, which is why I say the third event is excavation could be worse than the first two, where I went back and I had chemical pneumonia. And then I came back the following week and did a lot of soil sampling and had nosebleeds that couldn't be stopped.
Scott Smith, he might not be an engineer, but he does have degrees from Baylor and Harvard, and he does have like 25 patents. He's the only guy smart enough to be out there testing the topsoil and looking in people's furnace. This environmental Avenger thing doesn't work out. He's always got a career in HVAC.
The EPA might question Scott's methods, but I have questions about theirs. Like, why were air monitoring systems set up during the burn, grouped and placed in large part upwind from the plume? Why do they continuously deny that they were, in fact, involved in the decision to light the fire, after being presented with evidence that the tanks were cooling and at no risk of explosion? It's hard to believe anything that Unified Command says, while they hold the hands of the railroad and seem to be intentionally and strategically determined to produce non-detects.
Why don't we deserve to be protected? Why don't we deserve to know what's in our food? Why don't we deserve to know scientifically through data, through health risk assessment, exactly what people are exposed to daily? Why? This is not the end, it's only the beginning. You will start telling the truth.
You saw Dr. Rick Chai last night at the town hall and all that with the reporter Rich McHugh from News Nation. Those are water samples from all that.
What's the difference between the top shelf and the bottom shelf?
Top shelf are furnace filter, and the middle shelf are soil samples, and the bottom is water.
So when you get those samples back, do you report them to the resident?
Yep, I go right to the residents.
Okay.
To put this into context, a lot of these samplers that they take all these samples in teams of 4 to 6 people, and I'm just one person. And the whole process is I methodically set up the chain of custody, refrigerate everything, methodically set this up. Sometimes this will take 2 to 3 hours to write this up properly, go to FedEx.
You don't charge these people anything for this, do you?
No.
How much have you spent so far in?
Close to $100,000.
In testing?
Close to $100,000. And I had commitments from people to help with no conditions, and they all reneged on me. Lawyers have now reached out to test properly, so I've told the lawyers I'm not in the business of enriching lawyers. The community I do for free. So I'm just hoping to recover my out-of-pocket costs because I came here for 2 trips. As you heard me tell the story, Ken Beresford, who was on the second trip, said, you got to come back, and he passed away recently. And he said, you got to come back, and you're giving me hope for humanity. And I said the same thing to him. So I'm in all the way now. And so if people around me make promises and renege and don't want to step up and help, I have no choice to move forward. I'll figure it out.
So what happens now? Historically speaking, attorneys swoop in and sign up residents into some large class action lawsuit. They then reach a settlement, of which the attorneys take a gigantic portion of. The offender carries on with unchecked business as usual, while the citizens are left with crumbs and lingering questions about their health and their future. East Palestine and its residents have a chance to be different. They are engaged in ways that give me hope. They are recording and documenting interactions on their phones and showing up to meetings to hold politicians and agencies accountable. Dr. Rick Chai, the chiropractor who wrote prescriptions for blood work when residents were denied by their healthcare providers, and the same guy who still walks the creeks exposing lingering contamination, is now running for Congress. They have allies in their fight to bring meaningful change. They have the information, the technology, the community of their friends and family. And they also have the guy in the blue shirt.
you.